Let's talk next about Glencore. Okay, it's a little bit newer for South African investors because it only came here and listed a little bit later, but it's really a global metal producer and commodities supplier with a significant operation also in what they call marketing. In other words, not necessarily procuring or mining stuff, but actually buying it from others and then being involved with the distribution also of agricultural commodities. It's run by a South African, well, he's sort of South African. He went to Wits, Ivan Glasenberg, although I think he's a citizen of Australia and a citizen of Israel and a citizen of Switzerland or something, and the headquarters are in Switzerland. Market capitalization, 557.7 billion rands. Price to earnings ratio also showing up there as a negative. That means probably adjustments and write-downs of a non-cash nature, and a dividend yield of 2.15%. How do you feel about them? Had a tough 2015 with some debt concerns.
Yeah, look, themselves and Anglo had huge debt concerns in the end of 2015, and a lot of analysts and bigger banks and so forth actually thought that these guys would go belly up at that stage.
It's amazing.
They actually went up. Their credit spreads were rocketing. They actually went up to about 300. And they actually went up to about 300% of net debt to market cap, which is certainly not a healthy position to be in.
So what looked like acceptable debt levels, because they would buy things, they would do deals, they would have long-standing facilities that they would acquire commodity, shipments, and suddenly with the market contracting, they found themselves with way too much debt, so that's asset sales and other sort of emergency funding deals with their banks and all sorts of things.
So at that stage, it didn't look pretty at all. And I mean, the capital allocation of some of these resource companies has certainly not been very good over the previous 4 or 5 years. They came out of a nice hype cycle, and they were allocating a lot of money and doing a lot of debt, etc. Glencore bought Xstrata, as we all know. And they took a lot of debt on with that specific.
Let's have a look at the share chart, because that'll reveal what we're talking about here. So it's only a 3-year chart, because that's when it came onto our market. But basically, it went from 60 down to single figures. But it's since rebounded to the mid-30s. So that's another big win if you were, a believer and got in 2016.
Yeah. So we still like the specific share. You got huge exposure to copper, about 40%. Of revenue streams, 13% to agriculture, as we said, and then some oil and coal assets, etc. in there. So the trading that you talked about is about a third of EBITDA. It is big. They do normally, last 6 months, they did about $1.2 billion of profit on it. So that's still a profitable operation. There's still decent margins in those tradings. Of
sometimes it's timing, right? So they buy a shipment and then they wait and then they on-sell it for a profit.
Yeah, and they're closer to their customer as well. So they actually meet the mine with the end customer with some of these products, etc. Not always they the miner themselves, but sometimes they would off-take from some other miners as well. So not a bad business in total. That was the scare. That came back with some rights issues and some balance sheet restructuring, etc. They're still downsizing and cost cutting and trying to get their debt lower and selling off some of their assets. They haven't sold that much off yet, and I think that's a saving grace for them and Anglo that we're going to talk about earlier. They wanted to sell a lot of assets. They haven't yet, which is
because selling assets, when they say, we've decided we're going to sell these things, it's not like putting your couch on eBay. Who's going to buy these enormous mining assets?
So luckily there were no buyers at that stage.
When you say luckily, why do you say luckily?
Because I think they would have gotten much less for those specific assets. Whereas in the distressed times, I think they can probably get now 2 or 3 times more for some of these assets.
Maybe they can just hold on to them. If your outlook improves, then you can
certainly
reconsider. Okay, so Ivan Glasenberg's company, you hot or not on this one?
Yeah, we are. We just like it. They big shareholders. The management is in with all shareholders.
Him and all of his senior colleagues.
They had to buy in with the rights issue even more shares than what they had before. They came back, they brought debt back to about 1.1. So it used to be about 300%, it's now at 110%. So much more manageable. We think they can take some more debt off there and be much better balance sheet going forward long-term wise.
Okay, so you're hot on this one too. Okay, I'm just going to pass on that one. Not hot.